Have you ever wondered whether what you're holding on to is lifting you up or quietly weighing you down? What if the very attachment you call love is the reason you feel stuck and exhausted? And what if letting go isn't failure, but the first step toward real peace? There comes a moment in life when you have to ask yourself an honest question. Is this attachment serving me, or am I serving it? The truth is, not every emotional connection is meant to last. Some connections ground us, but others slowly drain us, keep us stuck, and take far more than we realize. This is not about cutting people off or becoming cold. It is about knowing when holding on is doing more harm than good. Emotional detachment is not about not caring. It is about caring in a way that protects your peace. It is recognizing when your emotions are in control, keeping you tied to something that no longer supports your growth. Too often, we confuse attachment with love, loyalty, or responsibility. But real love, healthy love, never requires you to lose yourself. How many times have you stayed simply because you believed letting go meant giving up? You tell yourself that if you try harder and hold on longer, things will finally change. But the tighter you cling to what needs to be released, the more it drains you. Emotional attachment can turn into a cycle where your identity becomes tangled with what or who you refuse to let go of. Maybe it is a relationship where you keep giving but feel empty in return. Maybe it is a friendship that feels more like an obligation than a joy. Maybe it is a chapter from your past that still follows you. Each time you think about walking away, fear speaks up. What if you regret it? What if nothing better comes along? So you stay? You give more time, more energy, more of yourself, only to feel the same exhaustion and the same weight pressing down on you. Here is the truth. Your emotions are powerful, but they are not always right. They can convince you that staying feels safer than leaving. They can make you believe that without this attachment, you will lose yourself. But real strength is not found in holding on. It is found in knowing when to let go. Your peace, your joy, your well-being matter more than preserving something that no longer serves you. Detachment does not mean shutting yourself off from life. It means stepping back far enough to see clearly. When you are too close, emotions blur your judgment. You react instead of responding. You stay caught in cycles of frustration and self-doubt. But when you step back, you begin to see things as they are, not as you wish they could be. And that is where freedom begins. Think of the times you felt the heaviest, trapped in something that no longer served you. That weight was not only the situation itself. It was the fear of letting go. It was the belief that walking away meant losing a part of who you are. But ask yourself this. If holding on is making you miserable, what are you really afraid of losing? We are often taught that letting go means giving up, that it proves we did not try hard enough. In truth, letting go can be one of the bravest choices you make. It means choosing yourself and stepping out of cycles that no longer serve you. You begin to choose peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, and freedom over fear. Emotional detachment does not mean shutting down your feelings. It means learning to feel without being consumed. You can care deeply for someone without losing yourself. You can stay committed without sacrificing your well-being. You can love, give, and invest, but never at the cost of your own peace. When you finally step back and see things clearly, you realize something important. Peace was never found in the attachment. It was always found in the release. There comes a moment when you have to ask yourself, am I seeing this as it truly is, or as I want it to be? That question changes everything. Your perspective shapes more than how you see the world. It shapes how you experience it. When you are too emotionally attached, your view narrows. You stop seeing reality and start seeing through fear, hope, and emotion. But the moment you shift your perspective, you begin to take your power back. We have all held on to something that no longer served us, not because it was right, but because it felt familiar. We tell ourselves that if we just hold on a little longer, things will change. If we try harder, things will return to how they were. That is where the trap begins. Emotional attachment keeps you focused on what was or what could be, while you lose sight of what is. You see potential instead of reality, and that can blind you. What if, instead of holding on out of fear, you step back and asked, what is this teaching me? What does this reveal about me? Every situation you cling to reflects something about your patterns, your beliefs, and your growth. When you shift from asking why this is happening to you to asking what you can learn from it, everything changes. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstance and start seeing yourself as someone who can choose how to respond. That is where real freedom begins. Emotional attachment often convinces us that our happiness depends on something or someone outside of us. We often believe that if we lose a relationship, a job, or a familiar situation, we will lose a part of ourselves. But that belief is not true. Your happiness was never inside the attachment. It was always within you. You just forgot. And the moment you remember that, the fear of letting go begins to loosen its grip. Maybe you have been holding on to a draining relationship because you are afraid of being alone. Maybe you have been clinging to an old version of yourself because stepping into the unknown feels frightening. Maybe you keep replaying the past, thinking that if you had done one thing differently, your life would look better now. But the past is finished. No amount of replaying or regretting can change it. The future is not written yet, but you do have power over this moment. Right now, you can choose a new perspective. Right now, you can stop seeing your situation as something happening to you and start seeing it as something happening for you. Right now, you can view detachment not as loss, but as an opportunity to grow, to redefine yourself, and to move towards something better. When your perspective shifts, clarity follows. You begin to see that some people were only meant to walk with you for a season. Some situations were meant to teach you, not trap you. Some endings are not punishments. They are redirections. When you accept that, you stop resisting reality and begin to move with it. That is when peace finds you. There comes a time when you must ask yourself, where do I end and where does everything else begin? If you do not define that line, life will define it for you. People will push, circumstances will pull, and eventually you become so stretched that you barely recognize yourself. This is why boundaries matter, not only physical ones, but emotional ones. Without them, you keep giving pieces of yourself away until there is nothing left. We are taught that love means constant sacrifice, that caring means always being available, that being a good person means never saying no. But that is not love. That is self-neglect. If you do not set limits and protect your energy, exhaustion and resentment will follow. Not because others take too much, but because you never showed them where to stop. Many people believe boundaries push others away. In reality, healthy boundaries do not build walls. They create space for honest connection. They say, this is who I am, this is what I allow, and this is what I do not. Setting boundaries is not unkind. It is truthful. It says, I will love you without losing myself. I will help you without carrying what is not mine. I will show up without letting you drain me. The truth is, those who benefit from your lack of boundaries will resist them the most. And that is okay. The people who truly respect and care for you will not feel threatened by your limits. They will respect your boundaries. They will understand that no relationship should require you to sacrifice your peace, your well-being, or your sense of self. Maybe you have found yourself saying yes when you wanted to say no, staying silent when you needed to speak, giving more than you received just to keep things calm. But that is not peace. That is avoidance. Every time you ignore your own needs, every time you allow a line to be crossed that you knew should never be crossed, you slowly wear yourself down. Over time, you begin to wonder why you feel so drained, so unseen, so disconnected from who you once were. Here is the truth. Boundaries are not about pushing people out. They are about keeping yourself whole. They are about making sure that in every situation and every relationship, you still belong to yourself. The moment you begin to enforce them, something powerful happens. You stop feeling like a victim of other people's expectations. You stop being ruled by guilt and obligation. You stop resenting the very commitments you agreed to. It will not feel easy at first. Saying no when you have always said yes will feel uncomfortable. Speaking up when you have stayed quiet will feel strange. Some people may resist. Some may not understand. But the ones who truly matter will adjust. And those who cannot may have only stayed because you never had boundaries in the first place. So ask yourself honestly, where do I need to draw the line? What am I allowing that is costing me my peace? What am I tolerating that is causing me to lose myself? The moment you answer those questions and decide that your well-being is not negotiable, everything begins to shift. You do not just set boundaries. You step into a new level of freedom, confidence, and self-respect. That is a shift worth making. Most people move through life reacting. Something happens and emotions take over before they even realize it. Anger rises. Disappointment settles in. Fear quietly follows. In those moments, they are no longer in control. Their emotions are. If you never learn to separate yourself from what you feel, you will always be at the mercy of what happens around you. Emotional detachment does not mean you stop feeling. It means you stop letting those feelings lead you. Instead of reacting, you pause. You take a step back. You begin by noticing what is happening inside you before deciding what to do with it. Most people never realize how much power they have over their emotions because they never stop to observe them. But the moment you become aware, everything starts to shift. You notice the triggers, the patterns, and how certain situations pull the same reactions from you again and again. Once you notice them, you begin to regain control. Think about the last time something upset you. Maybe someone said something that struck a nerve, or a situation did not turn out the way you hoped. In that moment, the emotion felt real and justified. But ask yourself, did it help? Did reacting change anything? Or did it simply steal your peace? Unchecked emotions take more than they give. They drain your energy and cloud your thinking. Left unmanaged, they start making decisions for you. Decisions you later regret. But awareness creates space. You pause before reacting. You step back before the emotion takes over. And in that pause, you find strength. You realize you do not have to get upset just because things did not go your way. You do not have to engage in every argument just because someone invites you into one. You do not have to let a temporary feeling create a lasting problem. Most of what upsets you today will not even matter a year from now. Mindfulness is not just sitting quietly or meditating. It is paying attention to how you move through life. It is catching yourself before frustration turns into an outburst, before sadness becomes self-pity, before fear convinces you to stop moving forward. Emotions are like waves. They rise, they peak, and they pass. When you learn to let them move through you without getting caught in them, you gain a kind of freedom most people never experience. This awareness takes practice. At first, it feels uncomfortable. Sitting with a feeling instead of reacting to it feels unnatural. It is easier to lash out, blame, or distract yourself. But real peace requires comfort with discomfort. Real emotional strength comes from facing what you feel without letting it consume you. You learn to observe an emotion instead of becoming it. Maybe you have reacted the same way to the same triggers for years. You may have told yourself, this is just who I am. But that is not the truth. You can change. You can choose a different response. The more you practice, the clearer it becomes that emotions are only visitors. They are not your identity. They do not control you. You are bigger than what you feel in a single moment. And when you live with that understanding, you stop moving through life at the mercy of every situation. You begin to move with clarity, purpose, and strength. That is what real freedom looks like. There comes a moment when you have to ask yourself an honest question. Who am I outside of everything I have attached myself to? If you do not know that answer, you will keep searching for someone or something to complete you. You end up chasing validation, approval, and purpose in places that were never meant to provide them. That is why self-care and personal growth are not luxuries. They protect you from losing yourself in the noise around you. So many people spend their lives pouring into others, into relationships, responsibilities, and expectations. Little by little, they forget themselves. Their own needs are pushed aside with the promise that they will focus on themselves later. But later rarely comes. The more you neglect yourself, the easier it becomes to keep doing it. You start believing that constant exhaustion is normal, that feeling unfulfilled is just part of life, that sacrificing your happiness is what you are supposed to do. But that is not the truth. You were never meant to merely survive. You were meant to live. And living begins the moment you decide that your well-being matters. Self-care is not just an occasional break or a rare moment of rest. It is about creating a life you do not need to escape from. It is about doing the inner work, healing what needs attention, growing into who you are becoming, and discovering what truly brings you joy. It is about making space for yourself in your own life, not temporarily, but as a foundation. When you neglect yourself, everything else begins to suffer. Your relationships suffer. Your peace suffers. Your sense of direction fades. Before long, you find yourself wondering why you feel so lost, so disconnected, so drained. The world will always ask more of you. There will always be someone who needs something urgent that pulls at your time and energy. If you are not careful, you can spend your entire life reacting to everything around you instead of building something within you. But the moment you decide to invest in yourself the same way you have invested in others, everything begins to change. You start to understand that self-care is not selfish. It is necessary. Prioritizing your growth does not mean you stop caring about others. It means you are making sure you actually have something to give. Maybe you have been waiting for permission to put yourself first. Maybe you told yourself that once things calm down, once you have more time, once others understand, then you will focus on yourself. The truth is, there will never be a perfect moment. Life will not slow down and offer you the time to take care of yourself. You have to create that moment. You have to decide that you are worth the time, the effort, and the investment. You have to choose yourself instead of waiting for someone else to do it for you. And when you do, something powerful begins to happen. You stop searching for validation in places that can never provide it. You stop relying on relationships, achievements, or external success to feel complete. You begin to understand that what you were chasing outside of yourself was already within you. That is when you step into a kind of peace, strength, and freedom that no one can take away. At some point, you must ask yourself an honest question. What am I still holding on to that is holding me back? You cannot move forward while remaining tied to the past. You cannot step into something new when your heart and mind are still anchored in what once was. Letting go is not just an action. It is a choice. It is the choice to stop carrying the weight of what you cannot change. The choice to stop replaying the past as if it could be rewritten. The choice to free yourself from what no longer serves you. Many people struggle to let go because they believe it means losing something important. In reality, letting go is about gaining. Gaining peace. Gaining clarity. Gaining the ability to focus on what is ahead instead of what is behind. You cannot heal in a place that keeps reopening your wounds. You cannot grow in an environment that keeps you small. You cannot build a future while clinging to a past that no longer exists. Still, so many people hold on out of fear. Fear of the unknown. Fear of change. Fear that letting go will leave them with nothing. But the truth is, when you let go, you do not lose. You create space. Space for something better. Space for what aligns with who you are now, not who you used to be. Painful experiences may shape you, but they do not have to define you. You do not have to carry every disappointment, every betrayal, every heartbreak like a badge of honor. You do not have to let the past define how you see yourself, how you see others, or how you see the future. Just because something hurt you once does not mean it has to keep hurting you. Just because something failed does not mean nothing ever will work again. The longer you cling to what was, the longer you block what could be. Letting go includes forgiveness, not only forgiving others, but forgiving yourself. Too many people punish themselves for past mistakes, for choices they wish they could undo, for not knowing then what they know now. But regret cannot change the past. It only steals from the present. You cannot build a new life while carrying the weight of shame. You cannot experience joy while constantly replaying past failures. There comes a moment when you must release it, stop reliving it, and begin rewriting your story. You have to decide that you deserve to move forward. Letting go is not weakness. It is not giving up or denying reality. It is a deliberate choice to choose yourself, to choose peace, to choose growth. It is saying, I will not let this control me anymore. I will not give it more of my time, my energy, or my emotions. It is understanding that your life is too valuable, your future too important, and your purpose too meaningful to be weighed down by what was never meant to last. Maybe you have been holding on too long. Maybe you believe that if you just waited a little more, people would change or circumstances would shift. But what if the change you are waiting for is not outside of you? What if it begins within you? What if real transformation starts the moment you finally let go? When you do, you will realize something powerful. You never needed to hold on the way you thought you did. You were always strong enough to move forward. You were always capable of rebuilding. You were always meant for more. And that realization is where true freedom begins. I wish you good health and lasting happiness. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel, Mindset Daily.